Hey, man, look, it's been a hot minute. We are back. We finally got a full crew. How long has it been since we've actually had all three of us on a show, just in general? It's been
Uh,
months.
Chat GPT was not a thing. Uh, it's been forever. I'm glad to see you guys. It's actually really nice. I've seen Landon quite a few times since then. It's the first time I've seen Drew in forever, and like we talked for a good 10 minutes before Landon came on. It was just really nice catching up.
Yeah, it's been way too long, man. But damn, it feels good to be back with all three of us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, it's always really nice before I hop on here. But look, man, this is the Three Man Rush podcast. If you even want to still call it that, that's what we still are. If you forgot the name, just reminding you. I didn't do like the big like we are bad. Like I didn't like scream or anything. Everything's just like real chill. Like we we don't necessarily have like I guess like a set schedule. Like we're just on here just to talk shit. We haven't even talked about the draft, which is kind of crazy, which is what we'll get into a little bit. But then like I mean, we're just here to just bullshit around, have some fun. Like basically like we always like just the three of us chilling in a room talking.
That's
Uh
it.
to an extent, we'll keep the PG-13 version, maybe the R-rated version, because there's like like if you say fuck twice, I think it's an R-rated movie. So like
Well, fuck, we're already at that
yeah,
then.
exactly. So there we go. Like yeah, rated R. So, but it ain't gonna be NC-17, like it probably would be if we
Not,
were on.
not that you think it's not gonna be, but
Oh
yeah.
God, we get banned off the internet again.
It was a fun ride, baby. It was a fun ride. I know. Look, the first thing that I want to talk about because I know the last show we talked about this to kick off the show. I was very upset that Lamar wasn't getting his money,
I'm
and
upset.
and fast forward, Lamar got his money. So just congrats, Lamar. Thank you, Baltimore. Way to wise up. Give the man what he's due. I cannot wait for the Lamar Jackson revenge tour. It's gonna be so much fun to watch. But yeah, I was glad to see that he got his money. He got what he deserved, and um, how about that? He didn't need an agent after all. All these people out here talking about how he needs an agent and they all know what's best for Lamar and everybody but Lamar knows what's best for Lamar and I think Lamar's doing all right for himself if I say so myself.
Yeah,
Highest
I
paid
mean,
player
and
ever, right?
yeah, I
Highest
mean,
paid.
He's up
in
there.
the wise words of Kid Rock, you get what you put in, and people get what they deserve.
I can't believe we're quoting Kid Rock right now, but it is
What's
it
that?
is on it is on point.
This was before he shot a bunch. He shot up a bunch of Bud Light with a AR-15.
I wasn't gonna go. Yeah, Bud Light happened while we were gone as well,
That
so
was gone. Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
been eventful.
It's so I get so much entertainment and so much joy out of watching how upset people get about the stupidest shit. It
Man, it's
makes it
unreal.
makes me so happy to watch people get so mad about so much dumb stuff. Like there's so much other shit you could be worried about, but that's the type of shit
Yeah,
that we're
like
worried about. It's
yeah, there's so much more to worry about, like cost of living
bills.
going up and like
Yeah,
groceries. Like, don't go on keto, by the way, gentlemen. I paid $10 for a box of cereal right now. Thanks, Magic Spoon. If we can get a sponsorship with Magic Spoon, guys, we
that
need to
would
get
be dope.
one.
I actually, today was day one for me. Of the big keto. I told Jared I was gonna
You go,
hop in.
man. You got this.
It sucks. That's why I was in the bathroom before I hopped on the show.
Yeah, you'll live there for a few
Couple
weeks.
weeks. Yeah, this ain't my first rodeo,
I'm
but
4 months in. I'm down 40 pounds. Shout out to Landon for going to the gym with me, and he's been a great gym partner and
I only know
with the
about great.
cardio. And well, I mean, he's been pretty good. And
where do y'all work out at?
Planet Fitness,
Planet
baby.
Fitness.
For real?
Yeah,
What time y'all go? What time y'all be going?
right after work. Yeah.
4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
hmm
Really?
Yeah, it's a judgment-free zone, man. I can go in
That's
there and I feel really good about myself every time I go in there. So it's just,
I do too.
I've got a membership out there.
freaking go. Let's do this
Start,
thing.
start,
The best
start
part is
coming
the
with us,
shop
bro.
shares at the end of it. That's the best part of it.
Does your wife still work there? Or did she used to work there?
She used to work at the one in St. Louis whenever we lived in St. Louis.
Okay.
She doesn't work at the one out there, but she did work at one for a little bit whenever we were in St. Louis. But yeah, I don't hardly even use the membership. I've been slacking. I've been slacking on my workouts the last couple months, so that might be the motivation I need to get back into it.
Bro, start coming in. Start coming in with us.
Yeah, we have like classic debates while working out, like about Landon was all over LeBron one day, and I just kept shooting back facts after facts after facts after facts after facts. Like how great he is.
Still wrong.
Yeah, never mind. Never mind. I ain't gonna be able to come.
Yeah, I mean, load management. That's all I gotta say. Load management.
So I know it's a football.
It's a soft man's league.
I'll go ahead and throw it out there. Who you guys got in the NBA Finals since we're not at one game apiece?
I got Denver in 6.
Yeah, I'm still
at the beginning. Yep.
I had Denver in 5. Actually, I had Miami winning 1.
Yeah, I think it was 6.
I'm still on track.
Oh yeah. Awkward pause, but it's been a minute. We haven't done.
I thought somebody was going to say something.
Oh no.
Y'all want to talk about some NFL draft?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. Before though, because I think this is what actually started the argument. This is I was talking to Jared, and I was like,
"Oh Lord, here we go."
There's nothing about LeBron or anything, but do you think Jokic is one of the best big men in history?
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Is he a top 10 center of all time?
Already, yes. He won 2 back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say top 10 player, and I was going to fall out my chair.
No.
But top 10 center, yeah, he is a top 10 center of all time. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. That's that was my argument. It was something, and then of course, always, LeBron got brought into it for no reason at all.
Can't have a basketball conversation without LeBron in there.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Nobody was even talking about LeBron. It ended up because I think at that point in time they were playing against the Lakers, and then it it evolved into the classic LeBron. Well, he doesn't have enough help, because that's what it always turns into with LeBron when he loses.
I have a feeling you're gonna miss him when he's gone, man.
We all will.
I will.
I think it's going to be the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady effect. This is going to be the first year where we don't have Tom Brady, and it's going to be awkward.
It is. It's going to be weird.
It is weird. Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay anymore. Aaron Rodgers was a Packer.
Aaron Rodgers is out of football, in my opinion.
Did that trade happen after the last time we talked?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah,
there's been a lot of life events since the last time we've all.
Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet, man. That AFC East is a bloodbath.
Yeah.
The AFC in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flip a coin.
It's trash.
Yeah. The list of quarterbacks in that AFC, man. Whenever you just go top to bottom, I mean, it's
because you got at the top, you got Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, right.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, it's wild. Let's get in. Look, man, let's talk about something. We didn't talk about the draft. Let's talk about the draft.
Let's do it.
Let's share the screen. If I can remember.
I got you. Bam.
Boom. Look at that. That's service.
Professionals here, guys. We're absolute professionals.
Now you're gonna have to scroll the screen. I can't scroll the page, so I can't do that.
I can do that, but I mean, we can focus on the top 8 right now.
Yeah. These are fun guys to talk about. So, I mean, it was pretty consensus, but once draft day rolled around, that Bryce was going to go 101, so that wasn't much of a shocker. But I was a little surprised, and I was actually very proud of the Houston Texans for during our NFL preview show. Our NFL draft, our prediction show that we did before the NFL draft, there was some steam on. I hope Landon's all right. Okay, all right, cool. But there was some steam where, possibly Houston was gonna pass on a quarterback at 2, and maybe it's gonna be Will Anderson, maybe it's gonna be Tyree Wilson, maybe it's gonna be Will Levis at 2. And I thought it was pretty clear that CJ Stroud was the second best quarterback. Well, I thought he was the best quarterback, but if Bryce Young is truly 101, then I thought it was pretty clear that CJ Stroud should be the second player off the board. And so I was very proud of Houston for doing the right thing with the second pick. But I'm curious, whenever all things shook out, I got a feeling I know who your favorite quarterback was. But did you guys think that Young and Stroud was the correct 1 and 2 in the order they went, or should it have been somebody else, or should it have been a different order? What did you guys think how it should have played out?
Like,
It played out the way I thought it was going to.
But
it
is
played
it the
out.
way that you thought it should have, though?
Oh, Will Levitt should have went number 1 overall because he has back muscles that are like unbelievable, and
He does have good
like
back
that's something that you can't teach. His draft capital should have went up alone on that, but no, I actually think Bryce Young would have been my number 1 pick.
Okay,
I agree with Carolina on that one.
What about you, Landon?
Like it went how I thought it was going to go. That's not really a surprise to anybody, but as Drew knows, whenever we talked about at the beginning, whenever we're going through our draft, you know who my quarterback 1 in the draft was, even before the draft, before the draft. And I mean, if I was Carolina, I'm probably taking the home run swing. I'm taking the swing on, and like I understand the Bryce Young thing just because it's a little different. Like when it's like the NFC and the AFC, because it feels like in the AFC, like you can't really play it safe. Like you have to take the swing on getting the guy that can compete. If they hit their ceiling, like Kenda's got to compete with Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and blah, 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 blah. Like, I mean, you just go down the list. And so, like, I feel like you need to take that swing if you're an AFC team instead of just playing it safe. Yeah. But I understand, like, from an NFC perspective, just because, like, really, like, outside of Philly, maybe, like, a couple other teams, like, is there really a consensus? Like, there's not really that many like great teams in the NFC. So like if you play it safe and like Carolina, I mean, they have a fantastic coaching staff. They've got a good team around Bryce Young, decent offensive line. The weapons are a little like, but
yeah, that part's still a little iffy.
But I mean, DJ Moore.
They did, but I mean, good defense around him, good offensive line, good running game. Really good coaching staff. So I feel like they can compete probably year 1 for their division in the playoffs right off the bat. Whereas like if you take Anthony Richardson, you're probably waiting, year 2, year 3, before you're really thinking of, okay, like this is the time where this guy can really take off. Like by year 3, like my whole thinking was like this guy, like he's not anybody that we've ever seen before at the quarterback position, from his blend of athleticism and arm and talent. I mean, like he's clearly, to me, like even over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, he's clearly the most talented player in this draft. But you're just going to have to be patient. You're going to have a plan in place. And you're just going to have to hope that, I mean, you're taking a home run swing. Whereas like Bryce Young, to me, like you're hitting a double. And I mean, it's safe. Like you're going to get on base with Bryce Young. Like you're going to get on base no matter what. But at his peak, is that size going to be a limitation? Is the way that teams attack him and whenever you take a guy number 1 overall, this ain't just for like year 1, year 2. I mean, you're hoping it's year 10, year 12, year 14. And it's like, is his body going to hold up 10 years? I mean, are you going to get 1 to 2 contracts out of this guy? I mean, that's something that has to be a thought. And the same thing with CJ Stroud. Like, with Stroud, it's just CJ Stroud's the only guy in this class that went to a worse situation than where he was in college. Everyone else, like Bryce Young, like he's going to be throwing to better dudes than he was in college. Anthony Richardson going to be throwing to a lot better dudes than he was in college. Will Levis going to be throwing to a lot better dudes than he was in college at the moment. Well, maybe. Well, out of Tennessee's a little, but
Treylon Burks probably the only guy I'd take over Barry Brown on
that's what I'm
this
saying.
team. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, like a freshman.
Tennessee's receiving core is trash.
But
I know, hey, Barry
but
Brown,
yeah,
dog.
but I mean, like the whole argument I was making, like with CJ, was just like he was throwing to like 5, 6 first round, like high first round wide receivers.
He's got Nico Collins now, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I mean, he had 2 first round tackles. You had a center that was drafted. Your guard's probably going to get drafted high last year. Your running back's probably going to get drafted high next year. I mean, like that's just a loaded offense with a lot of half-field reads, a lot of easy high-low reads, and he's going to go in, to a situation now to where like he's going to be asked to carry them. Like you're not just going to be like one of 11, where it's like you can just throw go out there. It's like this dude's open, this dude's open, this dude's open.
Yeah.
Like it's different. But I was going to say but he does have the talent. Like even as great as those wide receivers were at Ohio State, like he threw guys open a lot. Like his anticipation, his accuracy, those are things that translate. One thing that does worry me though is whenever, and like you can talk about the Georgia game, and yeah, like that might be like best case scenario is if the Georgia game is every game, but you also have 2 years of every other game he played where anytime he was under pressure, he folded like hard. I mean, it was a steep drop off.
That was definitely the biggest worry I saw on tape.
Yeah, well, it was the biggest worry for me until the Georgia game happened. When the Georgia game happened, it's like, okay, well, like this dude can really perform. Like, you saw the glimpses. So now it's like, okay, like, well, how do we get it there consistently? Because every other game the dude's played where he's been under pressure like that, it's been rough. And he's going to be under pressure in Houston. And he's not going to have
their offensive line is a little underrated though.
It's not bad by any means, but it's not
as good as the one he was playing in
exactly.
college.
And even then, I mean, like even whenever you're under pressure at Ohio State, it's still just like almost like that meme where it's like, fuck it, Marvin's down there somewhere, like throw it up to a first round wide receiver. And
Houston's also, I mean, they're completely a rebuild from the ground up, like the whole franchise. And the one thing they do have in their favor is they're playing in AFC South, which right now, like if you guys looked at Vegas spreads where Jacksonville's a runaway favorite in AFC South, like that tells you enough right there. Tennessee might be worse than Houston this year. There's a good chance of that. Sure. And the Colts are in a rebuild, obviously, as well. So I like the pick. I think overall, like, Bryce Young would have been my number 1 pick. Stroud going 2 makes sense to me. I think Richardson, like, there's arguments that maybe Houston should have took him, but he's so green that to me, like Stroud, I think you can get him there quicker than what you can Richardson, if that makes sense, like on the NFL level. Where Anthony Richardson is going to be dynamic, and I'm going to play the hell out of him in DFS quite a bit. But as far as on the NFL, like week 1 ready to go, there's going to be some rough games. I have a feeling with Richardson.
You're gonna have growing pains, but like I was saying, like if I'm an AFC team like Houston, like and I know like I'm not competing right away. I'm like 2-3 years away from being competitive in the AFC.
Those 2 teams in the top 5, they're the Colts and the Texans. They're not playoff teams, and there's no chance they're going to make the playoffs.
I mean, on average, the last 4 or 5 years, the first round quarterbacks they win like 4 games their rookie year. Like it's year 2, year 3 is where you start to see some hope. But for CJ Stroud, for me, man, I think the lack of mobility was a little bit overplayed with CJ Stroud. I know he didn't run a ton in college, but whenever he had to, he did. I just don't think that he had to very much because the offensive line was so good and his weapons were so good. And he is such an accurate, strong passer that I think he did get a little comfortable in the pocket sometimes. But whenever you saw him go up, like there was one game against Northwestern where they were playing in like 50-mile-an-hour fucking winds or something like that.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
and he used his legs that game because he couldn't really pass. It just wasn't
But here's
an
the
option. And
difference
then
though.
the same thing in Georgia against the Georgia defense in the national championship. That offensive line didn't hold up as well, and he had to run, and he showed that he could be mobile when he had to. And I think that, and at the NFL level, I think he's going to have to use that more often. I think he's just going to be forced to, and I think that he can. And so I do think that that's something that was kind of overplayed on that part. But like if you're talking about ceiling outcomes for CJ Stroud with how good he is as a passer, if Houston over the next couple years can surround him with strong weapons and they can keep that offensive line together, I think he has a Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert type ceiling as a passer, because I think that he's that good is from an accuracy and an arm strength standpoint. And he's shown you in college, if you put weapons around him, how good he can be. And I think he can do the same thing at the NFL level as he grows, assuming that Houston
I think
handles him. And I'm saying that as a ceiling outcome. I'm not saying that as like a
yeah.
median
I
what
don't
I
know.
expect
I don't
outcome.
know if
But
I'd put him up there with those guys even at their ceiling, just because even in college, like those guys both thrived under pressure, and CJ Stroud didn't. And like to me, that's the biggest worry, because
no,
what you
that's my
play
biggest
like,
concern too.
yeah, like what you play like under pressure in college, like that's the NFL. Like you're gonna be under siege constantly. Like
Hmm.
how do you man? And like with the Northwestern game, I even think that's like a little misleading, because a lot of those were like designed runs. Where as far as it's like outside of the Georgia game where you really saw it, like I said, I mean, like you didn't really see the ability to create and scramble out of pressure, and like the creativity you're gonna have to show, and really like where this league's heading in, just the direction anyway, with these quarterbacks, where like even when they're under pressure, like their ability to create, and like Joe Burrow thrives in that. Like the dude gets sacked like 7, 8 times a game, and he still's just like you don't see him fade. Like if anything, he steps up even
Yeah, he's
more under
incredible.
pressure. So like that's just where I'm going to have to see growth from Stroud. Whereas like Richardson, one of the reasons why he was my quarterback one is his ability under pressure, because his pressure to sack ratio is like the best of any quarterback since like 2015. Like the dude like is just, you can't get him on the ground. Like even when you hit him, you can't get him. But most of the time, you're not even going to be able to hit him, just because the way he manages the pocket and the way he's able to avoid pressure and step up, in the pocket and create under pressure. Like those are things that translate to like a high level in the NFL.
Hmm.
And I think like out of all the quarterbacks, even including Bryce Young, I think Anthony Richardson to me was the most impressive in the pocket, in like as far as like pocket management, avoiding pressure, avoiding sacks. And I just think like to me that's just more indicative of how the NFL life is. And if you can thrive in that situation as opposed to folding in that situation, like it's just gonna like notch my opinion a little bit more.
Yeah,
Like
I can see that.
it's easy to sit back in the pocket and throw whenever everything's perfect. I mean, like any good quarterback worth their weight is going to be able to pick you apart when everything's going good. Uh, but in the NFL, as we know, like shit don't go good that often. Like it's not
Well,
something, you know.
I mean, I guess my only thing on the Stroud pick, I mean, to me, like the Texans, at this point, like if let's say they're week one starters, which I foresee Stroud being a week one starter and Anthony Richardson, who would you much rather
Hmm.
throw the ball at this point? Like
Yeah,
if
but see, I mean, like, yeah, if you're talking 2022, but the draft isn't. I mean, you don't draft for 2022. Any team that drafts for 2022, or like you're not doing your due diligence. Like you draft for like 3, 4 year for your future. Like I mean, these aren't like if they can make an impact year one, that's great. But I mean, you're not drafting for year one, or I mean, you shouldn't be to me.
Well, and
Like
that point is why the very next pick behind Stroud, even though I like the player that was taken there, I don't really like the fact that Houston gave away more draft capital, including their first round pick next year, to come
which
up
is
and get Will
could
Anderson
be
at
very
3.
high.
Oh, Vegas odds right now has Arizona favored to have the number 1 and number 2 pick in the NFL draft next year now. Their own pick with how bad they're going to be, and then Houston's pick. And it's like, you just drafted CJ Stroud. They very well could have been drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. next year to pair him with CJ Stroud. And that pair of possibilities out the window now because they don't have their first round pick. And like I don't foresee Houston being very good. And so even though I like Will Anderson, they weren't one edge defender away from being a contender next year. So it's like, why are you giving up that draft capital in your 2024 first to make that move? So I like the player, but I wasn't a huge fan of that on draft night whenever I saw that come out.
No, it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess like I see where they're going because like there's a lot of that. You know, D'Amico Ryans is coming from San Francisco, where there's a lot of
Mhm.
that influence of the way they did things over there. And what's the one thing they had in San Francisco? A dominant edge rusher in
Yeah.
Nick
Not a
Houston.
quarterback.
They
Well,
didn't
I
have a
mean,
quarterback.
yeah, but they're hoping they do have a quarterback now. But then you get a dynamic edge rusher, and you just kind of build around those two guys on both sides of the ball. But I mean, like Drew said, like it is tough to know that like you're probably at least waiting until year 3, unless you're gonna like dip heavily into free agency next year to really address the issues with like the weapons and it like it's going to be an uphill battle for CJ Stroud to really make that type of an impact. Now, like I said, if you are doing the correct thing and you're drafting for year 3, year 4, like you're drafting for 2025, you're not drafting for 2022, then yeah, like that can end up paying dividends here in the future. But I think right now it was a little bit of, I mean, it was a lot to get. Like you're really gonna have to get I mean, like if Will Anderson is not an all pro level pass rusher, then you're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say, as the only non-Colts fan on the show, so that this is an unbiased opinion, I think the best fit of player to coaching staff and situation came at that 4th overall pick whenever Anthony Richardson landed in Indy. The mix of the coaching staff they have there with Steichen, with his track record with Herbert and Jalen Hurts, and um,
No,
I
that, but
would
like
have,
can't. So like Cam Turner, the quarter or the QB coach, he he worked with Kyler Murray and Cam Newton
right,
as well, I believe. Yeah, Kyler Murray and Cam Newton were the two
yeah.
guys he's been the quarterback coach for. And then of course you got my guy. Um, oh my gosh, offensive coordinator. Um, I'm sorry, it's late. I've had a long day. Um,
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know the
Jim
name of y'all's
Bob
offensive
Cooter, bro.
coordinator.
How am I like
Oh
not?
yeah, you guys do
Oh yeah,
have Cooter.
Yeah,
Cooter,
bro.
yeah,
How did I
Cooter,
blank on Jim Bob?
Jim Bob Cooter. I tell you, yeah, Cooter.
I
JB Cooter,
forgot
man.
that you guys got Cooter. That's so good. That's so awesome. I really
Yeah,
do. All jokes aside, I like Jim Bob Cooter,
yeah. I mean,
and,
he's worked with
he's got a tier 1 name too.
Yeah,
exactly
I
like you
mean
don't get any
that's
better than that. So I mean, like that's a guy
alone.
too. He's worked with Matt Stafford. He worked with Trevor Lawrence last year, and we saw how big of a leap Trevor Lawrence took last year.
It's
Um,
amazing what happens when you get top tier receivers.
And whenever you don't have Urban Meyer,
yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say it's amazing what happens when you get good coaching. But so yeah, I mean they have the perfect staff around him, and to me, like I said, like this, he's the home run pick. Like, I mean,
mm,
if it doesn't
I
work
love it.
out, I mean, yeah, you're probably looking for another quarterback here in 3-4 years. Or I mean, I would say I give him at least 3 years. If by year 3 he doesn't show like he hasn't shown any improvement or any growth, then yeah, you're probably drafting another quarterback. And the guy that's drafted him is probably been fired and out of the building. Um, but at the same time, like if he does hit, if Anthony Richardson does hit, I mean, you probably drafted the best player in this draft.
Yep. I
It's gonna
agree.
be it's gonna be
He
fun.
definitely has the highest upside for sure, and he's going to be a lot of fun
And
to watch.
I don't
And
even really
he
think
seems like
like
he seems like he's a great kid by all accounts, which at that position I do think matters. I mean, it shouldn't be the number one thing on your list of a quarterback evaluation, but I do think whenever you're talking about the face of your franchise, the quarterback, I do think that matters to an extent, and it makes it
oh, for
easier to
sure.
root for him too.
For sure. I mean, like just like character, but to me, like the work ethic is what really separates guys. And like if you get a guy that's talented,
Hmm.
that has that extreme work ethic, like Jalen Hurts, where Jalen Hurts is
Yep.
extremely talented, was a little bit of a project. You know, people never really there was a lot of differing opinions on him. There wasn't really differing opinions on this show because we both loved him
Mm-mm.
for that reason. Um, but when you have a guy that works like that and has the talent like that, then like very rarely do you see those type of guys fail at the next level. Whenever they do have, like I mean, Anthony Richardson didn't even have a quarterback coach at Florida, like never had a quarterback coach.
He
So I mean,
practically didn't have a coach at all. I'm not a big fan of the coaching staff at
well,
Florida.
even then, I mean, it was year one in a whole brand new offense,
Right.
first year starting. There's nobody on that team other than like Osiris Torrance that was going to be drafted.
Yeah.
So I mean, I mean, yeah, it was a tough situation, but
He's definitely in a better spot than the other two guys who've been Stroud and Young. I mean, he's got a dominant running back behind him.
that's the
And
point I was going to make about
an
like
up
even
and
his.
coming wide receiver. Like the Indy's got more talent than what Houston and Carolina has. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
that's not me being
He's
a
on the
Colts
most
fan.
talented roster
Right.
of any of the rookie quarterbacks for sure. And
It
that
wouldn't
helps.
it wouldn't shock me if he has a better year one than Bryce Young or CJ Stroud for that reason alone.
No, I don't think it would be that surprising either, honestly.
No, well, that's the point I was going to make is like with the way this league's changing, like quarterbacks that have the ability to run at like an elite level, like you almost like you almost have a higher floor as a quarterback
Well, yeah,
than
you do have a higher floor.
yeah. So I mean, like it's not even like it's going to be like that egregious for. I mean, like yeah, you're probably going to have to be patient with him as a passer, but like he's a dude that can come in day one and make an impact. I mean, like just think of like trying to guard. Like you look in the backfield if you're a linebacker and you have Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Like
That's the point. Yeah, that's if they get down the goal line, they're unstoppable.
and
Like
if
it,
yeah,
the Colts are going to
not only
be
that,
the
but like I mean, you have like
2023 Indianapolis Colts are going to be the Baltimore Ravens.
yeah,
That's what
exactly.
I
Or
foresee
like,
this season.
or I think even like a more accurate fit would be like, I mean, you remember like Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts with Shane Steichen as the offensive coordinator. They
Yeah.
led the league in rushing. That like Jalen Hurts' first year as a starter, and I mean that's with like Miles Sanders and I mean like a bunch of you know ragtag
Boston
guys.
Scott and Kenneth
Yeah,
Gainwell.
yeah. I mean like none of those guys are Jonathan Taylor. So I mean as
Right.
long as Taylor's healthy, um, I mean, I could very easily see. I mean, like the Colts probably won't be a top tier passing team, but I could very easily see this team leading the league in rushing, like off the
Yeah,
jump.
I'm with you. I think they'll be definitely in the top 3 in rushing attempts,
Yeah,
even in
So
trailing game scripts because they're going to be trailing quite a bit. But
before we get to number 8, because I'm gonna have to save some time to be able to talk about that real quick. 5, 6, and 7. Seahawks taking Devin Witherspoon. I love it. I think that they have just absolutely crushed the last couple of years of the draft. They've
yeah.
made the
They had a
most out of
great
that
draft.
Russell Wilson. The picks they got from that Russell Wilson trade, they've made the most out of that. I love the thought of having him and Tariq Woolen on the field. I hate it as a Rams fan. I hate the fact that they have that, but as an NFL fan, I love the pairing. The Cardinals trading down, getting an offensive tackle. They need offensive line help badly for Caleb Williams next year, or 2 years from now. You know they're going to want to be able to protect Caleb Williams after they draft him with that number 1 overall pick.
dang,
So
Kyler's rode off already.
yeah, oh yeah, somebody's going to want him. Somebody's going to trade for him. But yeah, I think they get the number 1 pick, man. If they do that, I think that they would trade Kyler and they would take Caleb Williams. I really do, and I'm not writing Kyler off as a player. I still think that he can be a good NFL player, but I don't see any reason for Arizona to rush him back this year. I mean, he's going to start the year off hurt. they're gonna suck. And then at that point, even once he does get healthy, what's their motivation to bring him back or to try to rush him back? Like, I don't see Arizona
Especially
being
too, like you reset. I mean, like he's got that huge contract too.
right.
So I mean, like you're gonna have to find somebody that's willing to take that on.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, like I mean, if you draft Caleb Williams, you also get to reset the money on your team. You're paying a rookie quarterback now for 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Tyree Wilson, I just feel like with I liked him pre-draft, but I feel like with the Raiders' history, I just feel like he's like destined to bust now. So it's a shame for him. Sorry, Tyree, you had a good run, but no. In all seriousness, I like Tyree
Johnson
Wilson.
Jr. If you didn't know, his dad actually played for the Cardinals.
I did not know that. That's a cool little nugget.
Yeah, his dad played for the Cardinals.
Speaking of the Raiders, is Garoppolo going to be Week 1 starter? Who knows?
I don't know if he'll be on the team Week 1. Apparently, they had a clause in the contract where they could get out of that, based off of injuries. And
what if he winds back up in San Francisco?
Wouldn't that be some shit? I haven't even thought about that, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
No, they're at quarterback carousel as well. Like with this Brock Purdy stuff.
They need to let Lance shine, man.
Trey Lance is done, bro. The Trey Lance train is it's done already.
They gave up multiple first rounders to let that man start 2 games. One of them was in like a monsoon, and then they were like, "All right, we're done. We give up." Like this shit's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy to me.
As a Rams fan, you should be excited.
I am. I hope to God they roll with Brock Purdy. I am on my hands and knees pleading for them to just turn the franchise over to Brock Purdy, because all he is a more mobile Jimmy G, and so I'm good with that, man. Give him the keys. Let the NFL world overreact to him the same way they overreacted to Jimmy. Everybody puffed up Jimmy too.
They won a lot of games with Jimmy.
Did they win the game though?
No, they didn't. They won a lot of games though.
They did. They did.
I'm curious about so like now we're getting into this. I'm curious about Drew. So number 8, Bijan going to Atlanta with Tyler Algier.
Arthur him.
They're gonna lead the league in rushing attempts. I'm just throwing it out there.
It annoys me that the Atlanta Falcons have 3 of my favorite playmakers in the NFL on their team because of my hate for Arthur Smith and how he just refused to, they drafted Kyle Pitts 4th overall. They drafted Drake London in the top 10 and like, all right, we're going to give Tyler Algier 300 carries. And it's just like, and I get it. The Marcus Mariota was awful. Desmond Ridder was okay, but not that much better really in the grand scheme of things. Like, and they were effective running the ball. Like, to his credit, Arthur Smith can dial up a mean run game, and they've got a good offensive line, and now they have, in my mind, the best running back prospect that I've seen since Saquon. And so I love the fit for Bijan from like in the fantasy world where I operate most. Like, I think Bijan's going to be fucking awesome from the rip day one. Like, I've got him as my running back 4 for redraft right now, and I'm worried that he might be too low. And he's already my dynasty RB1 right off. Like, he ain't even played a snap yet. And he's RB, like, so I love it from that standpoint. But this Falcons team, their defense is so bad. And you had Jalen Carter sitting there. You had so many impact players sitting there on the board. You're like, nah. Wait, Tyler Algier just had an awesome rookie year. We used a late round pick on him. It was the perfect blueprint for how you draft and use running backs in the NFL world. They did it. They succeeded. And they're like, nope, we're going to take a running back in the top 10. And it's just crazy to me, man. And I love Bijan as a player. I really do. But I just think it's wild that they didn't go defense or that they went running back in the top 10. That shit's crazy to me. But I like it from a fantasy standpoint, so I'm not all that mad about it.
Yeah. It's a running back in the top 10. So
look, the Falcons are going to win the NFC South this year.
They might.
They could. Maybe.
They overachieved.
That defense is rough.
And I'll say one better, and this is going to hurt Drew. Arthur Smith's the best coach in that division too.
I don't know if he's a better coach than Frank Reich is.
I'd probably take Frank.
Frank Reich lost his job to Jeff Saturday, bro.
Well,
Dude, that's
that
Jim
that
Irsay.
that is a very broad statement that is not very fair to Frank Wright because it was that was y'all's owner just playing
His
fucking
drinking buddy,
ball playing fucking
his,
ball in the middle of the
his
year.
As long
pickleball
as
friend,
look, man,
basically.
And
as long
Frank
as
Wright
Frank Reich
didn't get a
Frank
fair
Reich
shake.
can stay away from Carson Wentz, then
Yeah,
he's fine. And like
yeah.
they
That's
got
all
a good
his.
coach.
That's the only thing that's gotten him in trouble is he's that meme of just looking at Carson Wentz and saying I can fix him. And it's like nobody can fix him. He's too far gone now. Like
Yeah.
if I've given up on Carson Wentz, everybody should have given up on Carson Wentz. And
Oh man.
but I was really glad to see Frank land in Carolina, get his quarterback, and he's got an awesome coaching staff around him. And I think I think Carolina has the best coaching staff, head coach included, in that division.
I agree.
But
Let's get to number 9 here. Howie Roseman. Once again, bro. What are we doing? Like why?
As if they weren't already going to be the favorites to win NFC, too.
it's like, what do you need to do to be a successful GM in the NFL? You just sit back, let everybody else do all the stupid shit, and you just do the obvious shit. That's basically what he's done over the past couple years. Is just let everybody else make the dumb mistakes, let everybody else reach, and
Tennessee, you don't want to pay AJ Brown? Sure,
we'll do it.
we'll do it.
Yeah, like okay.
You guys don't want to draft defensive players from literally the greatest defense in college football history?
We'll do
it. We'll do it.
It's hilarious, man. It's so funny. And then you got
Jordan Davis there too. Like, so you got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Like
and Nolan Smith. We ain't talked about him yet because he's he's down further in the first round. But
yeah, there's tons of
Nakobe Dean's going to have a bigger role this year because they lost a little bit in their linebacker room. He didn't really have to play much last year, but Nakobe Dean's going to have a bigger role this year. Like. And then even on day 3, like we'll talk about Jahmyr Gibbs here in a second. Detroit drafts Jahmyr Gibbs, which is basically like DeAndre Swift all over again, but a little bit smaller. And then
DeAndre Swift. I'm glad you mentioned that name.
And then Howie's like, oh, okay, so you don't want DeAndre Swift?
You want DeAndre Swift?
Here's a day 3 pick. Give me DeAndre Swift.
Oh, you mean we don't have to pay Miles Sanders? We'll take DeAndre Swift for a day 3 pick.
Yeah, we'll keep Kenneth Gainwell. We'll take DeAndre Swift for a day 3 pick, and then we will give, in my mind, one of the best pure runners in the NFL. I don't care, man. Argue with your grandma. Rashad Penny. They brought him into whenever he's healthy. I know he can't stay on the field for longer than 3 games. I get that. But whenever the dude's on the field, he is one of the best pure runners of the football that this league has got. And
absolutely.
So for the 3 games Philly's going to get to use him, that man is going to – you thought Miles Sanders looked good running the ball in that backfield. Rashad Penny's going to eat. And then DeAndre Swift, we saw how the games that he played in Detroit, we saw how efficient that he was too. Like DeAndre Swift was so efficient and so good with the touches he got. And now he's in an even better offense. And Jalen Hurts doesn't pass the ball to the receivers very much, but like I had to think they'll get creative with the ways that they can use him. And if he can stay healthy, I don't think his efficiency is going to disappear because I don't see typically for efficiency to go down, volume needs to go up. And I don't see volume going up to a big extent for Swift. Like I think the volume will be relatively similar to what he got in the games he did play with Detroit whenever he was healthy, but now he's just in a better offense. Yeah. So it's like this is the blueprint, people, for how you should build a running back room in today's NFL. They have Kenneth Gainwell, DeAndre Swift, and Rashad Penny, and I think they've allocated like less than $2 million to their running back room. Like, and then you got Carolina paid Miles Sanders whatever they paid him, and you got all these guys getting money, and it's just like Philly's doing it, man. This is how everybody should do it. Chicago's doing the same thing. They brought in Deontay Foreman, a great runner. They already have Khalil Herbert. And then they drafted Roshan Johnson on day 3, who, you know, he's a great runner in his own right. You know, he's a little bit overlooked because he was playing behind Bijan, and he is he's not as good of a player as Bijan. Just bottom line, nobody is. But again, regardless of which one of those three running backs. Regardless of which one of those 3 running backs are on the field, they're going to have a plus runner on the field and basically no money allocated to the running back position.
Chicago had a great offseason. They really did.
Yeah. I like the – I don't know how you guys – Landon, I don't know how you felt about it, but I like the Darnell Wright pick that's kind of me leading into it.
Well, I mean, I remember like me and you talking, you asked me who was my offensive tackle 1 in this class. It was Darnell Wright. To me, he's the best offensive tackle in this class.
Did Chicago need that?
Yeah. So, yeah, I was a big fan of it. The Titans here, Peter Skoronski.
I like that pick a lot too, man.
They needed offensive line help. To me, like, he's much more of a guard.
He'll be an interior, yeah.
But I don't know if I would have picked somebody like. I mean, they'll probably play him at tackle. That's fine. Like, they need a tackle. But
the Titans are the most boring team in the NFL now.
Yes.
They're not a team that I would want to watch.
Outside of Derrick Henry, and he's getting old. Like,
I still really like Treylon Burks. I still think Treylon Burks can be a really good player. Now he's up against it for his chance to be able to show it because of the offense that he's in. But I do still like Treylon Burks a lot. But that is like the only exciting piece of that offense to me, really.
Do you think they've already given up on Willis?
Yes, I do. I think the second round pick of Will Levis up there at the top of the second, I think that was kind of the final knife. And then the fact that the reality is they have a new GM that was not the GM that picked Willis. So they don't have any ties to Willis. And so I don't think Malik Willis got a fair shot either because he was a very clear developmental quarterback, and they took no time to develop him. And they just threw him in there.
Anytime you take a player like that, like, you have to have a plan in place for them.
And it doesn't seem – it seemed like Tennessee was just flying by the seat of their pants, and they were like, well, fuck, we just need to throw him in there. And then he didn't play well. Surprise. The developmental quarterback in his rookie year on a bad team
who should have never even been playing to begin with.
Well, then they benched him for Josh Dobbs in a game where they literally could have made the playoffs too. Like, that tells you right there that that organization's in shambles, in my opinion.
It's something that makes me like, and I don't like saying this because I want to.
Not even like, it's just like the franchise in general. Like, going back, even to like Vince Young, like, they take these type of players, and instead of building around the player's strengths, they just try to mold the player into
try to make what
they want. Like, it's like
making the system.
Like Marcus Mariota, very mobile. You're very accurate throwing on the run. You have a really good arm. You know, when you're out of the pocket, you can create. Let's make you a pocket passer. Like Vince Young, it was the same thing. Like with Jeff Fisher, it's like Vince Young probably, like, at that point in time, I mean, like, he was like a prototype. Like, you know, you didn't really see quarterbacks like him move like he moved. And what did they do? They made him a statue pocket passer. Like, and the same thing with Malik Willis, man. Like, you have Malik Willis in there who should have never even been starting to begin with. And there's no plan. Like, they don't have plans in place. Like, they pick these guys and they just, like Jared said, like, they're just flying by the seat of their pants. Like, and which to me, like, I love. Like, I think it's fantastic. So
I thought something that made me laugh in like the post-draft press conferences and stuff. They were talking about like, yeah, we were getting ready to take Willis right there at 11, but Peter Skoronski was still on the board, and we just couldn't pass him up. And it's like, in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, so you're telling me, like, we believed in Will Levis enough to be our franchise quarterback. We were going to take him at 11, but there was this interior offensive lineman we just couldn't pass up. It's like, what do you mean? Like, if you really believe, like, you want to make Levis feel better because he could possibly be your franchise quarterback. You want to prop him up, but those type of statements always make me laugh. It's like, yeah, whenever you could take your franchise quarterback, but there's an interior offensive lineman that you want to grab instead,
let's pass on him and give every other team a shot to draft him.
Right. Yeah. So
even though we believe he's our franchise guy.
And every one of those teams still passed on him too. So I don't think he is the guy. And I think Tennessee is going to be one of the worst teams in football this season coming up too. I think it's a complete rebuild for that organization as well. They still got some big contracts.
I don't even know if it's going to be like necessarily a rebuild though, because I do think like Mike Vrabel's a good enough coach. Like that team's not going to bottom out completely. I think they're honestly in like the worst spot you could be in, where
they're right there in the middle.
Yeah, you're just in the middle. Like you're a team that's probably
going
to win. Yeah, you're going to win 5 to 6 games. So like you're not going to be bad enough to get a top 3 pick to draft that, stud franchise quarterback, but you're also not good enough to really be in contention for anything either. Like you're just
I can't name 3 wide receivers they have.
They've got Treylon Burks, they've got Nick
Phillips.
Westbrook, Akine, and Kyle Phillips.
Yeah.
That's
as far as
I'm impressed that you knew that, because I was literally Brandon Cooks isn't there anymore. And
I do like Chig Okonkwo quite a bit.
Oh god,
he's a solid player. He is a solid tight end.
He's a solid tight end.
He is. It doesn't take much to be a solid tight end in today's NFL.
These days. Kyle Pitts is a solid tight end too.
Yeah, he's a generational tight end that's in the worst possible spot.
Utilized correctly.
Oh God! I got a whole season to do that. Guys. Wait, we didn't talk about Jahmyr Gibbs though, and because I got to get your reaction, because I know that was like the first time you text me on draft night. Because I think you just said, "Oh my God, bro," and I didn't even know what you were talking about. And then I looked up at the TV and saw the pick, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
He went to the Lions, right?
They took a sub 200-pound running back in the top 15 in the NFL draft, man. Like, so
especially too. I mean, like you have DeAndre Swift still on his rookie deal.
I don't know why the Lions.
They're down with DeAndre Swift, man. They hate DeAndre Swift.
They do.
I honest to God think that they know fantasy football fans want DeAndre Swift, and the Lions are like, screw you all. And we're going to give Jamal Williams the ball every single time, and he's going to score 20 touchdowns. I hate the Lions so much.
The reason I wanted to talk about that is because the Lions had 2 early first-round picks, and they used it on a pass-catching running back and a linebacker. Like, you want to talk about not giving a shit about positional value.
They don't care about it.
They don't give 2 shits about positional value.
And not only that, but like I'm not even a big Jack Campbell fan. He wasn't even in my top 5 linebackers in this class.
Really?
Which is kind of
crazy. I did no defensive prep for the NFL draft this year, so like I just assumed he must be the best linebacker in the class.
He's like one of those guys that's like really relies on like instincts and stuff like that, but like he's rough in pass coverage. Like he's very much like a throwback, like Dan Campbell, like smash mouth linebacker. He's not like this like physical freak, with stuff like that. He might still be a good player, but like there was just other guys at the like this was not a very good linebacker class. So I think like picking one, and I know like a lot of people were high on him. So I could be totally wrong. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I just didn't see a top 20 pick whenever I watched him. I was just like, is he okay? Like, yeah, he's serviceable. But like you pick a linebacker that high in the draft, like you're talking about like all pro level linebacker. Like that's what you're hoping for. And I just don't see that with him.
Okay.
I think the Lions defense is gonna be better.
And even the same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a good Jahmyr Gibbs is a good player. He's a fine player.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be electric.
Yeah, you're gonna pick a running back that high, like these guys better be all pros at their position. And if they're not,
I think Gibbs is gonna be all right. I think that pick's fine. The way Detroit plays,
I would not. I definitely would not have picked a running back that high, especially if I'm Detroit.
No. I think he's gonna be good in the league, though. I wouldn't have taken him.
He'll probably be a good player, but
there's only one running back in that.
And not only that, but look at who is still on the board there. Like they need DB help, like bad.
Right.
They need DBs bad. And you have Daniel Forbes and Christian Gonzalez on the board at that point.
They just have to outscore the other team, man. They play in a dome.
Like that's definitely going to be their plan.
Yeah, that's going to be their goal for sure.
It's the most fun football.
Even then, I just want to talk about why we continue to let good DBs, go to New
How
England.
did Christian Gonzalez make it to 17?
Why? Like Bill Belichick, like say what you want about drafting wide receivers and all that stuff. The
He's
dude
terrible at
drafts,
it.
yeah.
He is
I mean,
terrible
yeah,
at
that's
that, but
fine.
he
But
he
like
is not terrible at
his,
drafting DBs though.
no, the dude will literally take like fifth, sixth rounders and they'll be like Pro Bowl level defensive backs. Now you
Yeah.
give that dude Christian Gonzalez to work with, it's like, God
And
bless.
so, like, I know that Emmanuel Forbes, he was supposed to be like a big play type of DB, but as somebody, Landon, that studied the defensive players much more than I did pre-draft, were you surprised to see, like, because I was shocked. Were you surprised to see Emmanuel Forbes go where he did and go in front of Christian Gonzalez on top of that?
I wasn't really surprised to see him go where he did. I thought he was going to go somewhere in between. I thought he was more of a guy that probably would have landed in like that, like 20, 21, like area, like not necessarily like for those teams, but like in that, like, low 20s area. So him going 16, that didn't surprise me one bit. But I mean, like it did surprise me him going over Christian Gonzalez.
Okay, yeah, because that's what surprised me. I wasn't sure where he was supposed to be drafted, but I knew
Gonzalez
it
was
that
not, he was not,
once Witherspoon was off the board, in my mind, I was okay. The next corner coming off the board is going to be Christian
and this too,
Gonzalez.
I mean, like this is a deep, this is a deep corner class, like deep. Like you're getting dudes going in like the fifth, sixth round that I had like third round grades on. I mean, like there was to me like this and like the DB room and the tight end room are like the two deepest positions I've seen
The
in
tight
this
end class
draft.
was deep. I am familiar with that, and the tight end class was solid. I was really surprised to only see one go in the first round. We won't talk about him for another few picks, but um, I was really surprised to see Michael Mayer slide out of the first round, and so that was a pick from Detroit or from Vegas, especially after they moved Darren Waller. That I love the value they got on Michael Mayer in the second round. I thought that was a great pick, but. Kalijah Cansey going to Tampa at 19. That just felt like such a Tampa, like we know we're going to suck next year pick. Who gives a shit? Just give us this really solid defender that we can stick in the middle with Vita Vea and like that. So that pick was just like, to me, that was them signaling like we know we're fixing to suck next year.
And then 20, JSN going to Seattle, man. Like that's tough. I know that's tough for you, Drew.
Seahawks loaded up. They're gonna be tough.
They had a great draft. But it's
They
still,
had
I
a
mean,
great
it's
draft, and
all
they're
going to
going to
come
be in.
down to like Geno, man. Like if Geno can recreate
Mm.
what he did, I mean, like if he falls off even a little bit, like it's an uphill battle, There's a few other guys, obviously Quentin Johnston going here.
I love that.
to
I
Los
love that
Angeles.
fit.
That's a great pick for them. I think that's fantastic. Especially now Keenan Allen moving more towards that slot role where he can just eat teams alive on the inside. Then you have Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston taking dudes over the top. One of my favorite picks in this draft was at 22. The Ravens got Zay Flowers.
I thought they should have taken Jordan Addison personally. I like Zay.
Zay Flowers to me, like, I mean, I know like there's the size limitations. I think Zay Flowers was the best wide receiver in this class.
No shot.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson.
No, he's undersized. He's a late declare. He would be a huge outlier if he ended up being the number one receiver in this class.
He's just man. There's just
if you want to talk about like the dog factor, like he would score high on that. He's got the dog factor for sure, but I think there's a clear gap between JSN and everybody else personally. And then I have Quentin Johnston and Jordan Addison both above him as well.
I think Addison's fine. I was just not like a huge fan of his.
He is just a route technician, man. Like
he
fooled everybody into thinking Kenny Pickett was a first round talent at the quarterback position. That's how good he was.
Kenny Pickett was a good quarterback last year. He had a really like that second half.
He was good in the second half
of that season, man. He was
good in the second half, but
I'm not judging quarterbacks on their rookie year performance.
I'm not either. I mean, I wasn't a big Kenny Pickett fan before he got drafted, so like it's not really me necessarily judging him off his rookie season. But I think Jordan Addison being able to operate across from Justin Jefferson, and with Adam Thielen being in Carolina, like Adam Thielen ran such a huge amount of routes last year, and those are all there for Jordan Addison to step in. I think he's already better than KJ Osborne. So
I was gonna
on
say, what do you
two
think
wide
of
receiver
KJ?
sets. I'm
I think they
sorry.
needed a wide receiver.
I
For
was gonna
sure.
say,
Like,
what do you guys?
I didn't hate
What
the
do you
pick at
think the
all,
value of KJ Osborne is now? Because I
especially with
know
like Johnston and Flower. You
Nothing.
just kind of saw that wide
nothing. Yeah,
receiver run go right there, like starting at pick 20. That wide receiver run like popped off quick.
Yeah, there were a couple teams that I thought should have either moved up or I thought the Jets should have moved up and seriously looked at JSN, because outside of Garrett Wilson, like you have Aaron Rodgers now, that you already have a defense in play, and then outside of Garrett Wilson, I don't think anybody on that team at the receiver position is anything special. Like Alan Lazard,
Alan Lazard, bro,
Alan Lazard, Corey
the
Davis,
Lizard
Randall
King.
Cobb. Like I know that Aaron Rodgers has his best buddies, and he's like, but it's a continued theme of like Aaron Rodgers is like, I
John
need
Kuhn
more.
came out of retirement.
Aaron Rodgers keeps bringing back all these guys that he played with, and then he's like, I need better receivers. It's like, well, stop bringing all your fucking best friends everywhere with you that suck at
Randall
playing
Cobb.
receiver. And I love Randall Cobb, but he's older, you know. And it's like JSN would have been such a clear upgrade at the receiver position for them, or like even Aaron Rodgers' old team. I thought that if you want to see what you got in Jordan Love, give him somebody else other than Christian Watson to throw to, because I'm not the hugest Romeo Dobbs believer. I think he could be a fine
I love
number.
Romeo Dobbs.
I think he could be a fine 2 or maybe 3 receiver, but like I thought Christian Watson, JSN teaming up together would have been all right. Now we can really see what we got in Jordan Love. So I thought JSN went a little bit later than he should have, and I think Seattle, they didn't necessarily need a receiver, but to me, he was the clear best player on the board at that point. And I mean, the reality is Tyler Lockett is getting older, but I mean, they've arguably got the best trio of receivers in the NFL now with Metcalf and JSN and Tyler Lockett. Because there's a lot of really good duos out there, but that you look at, like Miami's got a great duo, but who's their number 3?
Cincinnati.
Tyler Boyd is good. They would be the other team.
Yeah, I would say Cincinnati
they would be the other team that would be up there in that discussion.
The thing that makes him Joe
I
Burrow is
I
better
think-
quarterback.
I think Baltimore's got a really good trio too now.
I disagree. I do not. I am not a Rashard Bateman truther, and I
think I love Rashad Bateman. I think if Odell's healthy, like Rashad Bateman, Odell, and Zay Flowers, like I think that's.
And I do like Zay Flowers a lot. Like I say that I had a couple guys over him, but he was a clear first round player to me, and he was my 4th favorite receiver. But it was like, for me, it was JSN, and then Johnston, Flowers, and Addison were all like grouped in there together. So I don't have any issue with where he went necessarily. It's kind of just like, you know, you're picking small arguments at that point. But I just love what Baltimore's doing for Lamar. Paying him that money and then finally surrounding him with weapons. He's got Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Odell. Like, this revenge tour is going to be special. I can't wait, man. I'm so excited for Lamar.
And then Buffalo taking Dalton Kincaid, I thought was really good. That was a good pick for them.
Yeah, I like that pick.
I really, really, really like him a lot. Matthew Smith, I loved for Dallas. Like I loved him as a player out of Michigan. Miles Murphy had no business going as late as he did.
No, I love what Cincinnati did, beefing up their defense in this draft, like even in the middle rounds as well.
Nolan Smith, once again, I mean, like, there's no reason he should have been at 30. I was not a big fan of that Anton Harrison. I mean, like, I think he's a decent tackle, but like,
yeah, that one wasn't. I wasn't a big fan of that pick either.
Yeah, and I liked Kansas City's pick too. I think that was a really good pick out of Kansas State. So now, like, we're through this. Like, who are like the top 3 teams to you that like had the best drafts, like total drafts?
Seattle had the best
3. Draft. Yeah, I would put you guys. I would say Indy, Seattle,
Philadelphia.
and Philadelphia. I think those are the three best the three best draft classes this year. And I feel like we need to say this. I know we say this every time we do a draft show. Draft grades are fun right after the draft is over. Like
Draft grades.
it's fun to go through the exercise and do this, but we don't know, and we're not gonna know for like another 3 years what the draft class really is. So I feel like that needs to be said, but nonetheless, we can still have fun with it. And so I would say the three draft classes I was most impressed with were Indy, Seattle, and Philadelphia.
Those would probably be my three as well. I really liked what all those teams did. Not from like a homer perspective, but just, I mean,
Bro, like
really
some of the later picks you guys had. What was I'm going blank on his name. Was it Branch, the guy that you guys got in the second?
no, that was
What is the? I'm
Brents.
going blank on the name.
Julius Brents.
Brents, yes, I love that pick. I love the Josh Downs pick. I thought that he was a value where you guys got him. I wasn't even like the biggest Josh Downs fan, but at the point that like I thought that he was still on the board for far too long, and I think that he's going to be. I think he'll be able to step in day one and be an impact slot receiver for you guys.
Yeah.
So I like that pick a lot too.
Darius Rush out of South Carolina, love that pick, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colts had a really great draft. I was a big fan of a lot of their players. And then, Philly they just keep stacking. They even got Keely Ringo.
Do me a favor before we wrap up, scroll it back up to the top for me and switch it to round two. And just like very quickly, I just want to run through round two because there were some picks I liked a lot in round two as well. Obviously, I don't want to take another out. I'm talking about like 5 minutes here, but I thought it was really cool seeing Joey Porter go to Pittsburgh. I thought that was cool. That was pretty cool. I loved the Sam Laporta pick going to Detroit. I think that he could be an impact pass catching tight end off the rip. Especially they're not going to have Jameson Williams for 6 games. So Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, those guys back to back. I thought that those were great.
Love the Steve Avila pick.
I was too, dude. I was really excited to see that. They need offensive line help in a bad way, and I really like Steve Avila. So I like that as well. Derek Hall, I thought, again, talking about Seattle's draft class, that was another reason I like their draft class is because I like that Derek Hall pick as well.
It's a good one. Luke Musgrave going to the Packers. I like Luke a lot. I got to see him at the Senior Bowl. I actually got to interview him. I've got somewhere on my phone, I got like an 8-minute interview with him. Of course, Julius Brents, Brian Branch to the Lions. I think that was
a great value. Yeah.
Cody Mock to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Love that, man. I love Mock a lot. Jaden Reed to the Packers. I thought he was fantastic. I'm a big Jaden Reed guy.
Yeah, I like Jaden Reed too.
John Michael Schmitz to the Giants. I think the Giants had a really good draft as well. I was a big fan of what the Giants did. Buffalo getting Osiris Torrance. That's a big need for them. That was a good one. Marvin Mims. I think Marvin Mims is a good wide receiver. He's a little underrated.
He's absolutely underrated.
I was a big fan of where he went.
Russ is going to cook this year.
What do you think about Hendon Hooker to the Lions?
He just might. I didn't hate it where they got him at. If he would have been a second-round pick with the injuries and things like that, I might have been a little bit more concerned. But I thought getting him in the third, I thought that was solid. I think that Tank Dell hype's getting a little out of hand. The dude's so undersuzed, and I know that like CJ Stroud apparently
he's
loved
a beast.
him, but like
he's a beast, but he's a little dude.
Just I don't think there's literally ever been
a receiver. Man, this is a dude to watch out for right here
there.
In New Orleans.
That's my favorite third-round pick. It was Kendrick Miller to New Orleans.
That's a dude. We actually have if you go on the Blue Stable, we actually have an interview we did with Kendrick.
Yeah,
really good player. I like Cedric Tillman to the Browns. I like Tillman better than I like Jalen Hyatt. So,
yeah, if Tillman wouldn't have got hurt, I think he would have been drafted before Hyatt too. Like I don't think Tillman would have been on the board as late as he was if he wouldn't have gotten injured.
Yeah, I agree. Byron Young, I thought was a good pick. Y'all had a good draft.
I thought it was really weird that the Packers double tapped the tight end position.
I actually really like it. I actually now I don't know if I would have went Tucker Kraft there, but I kind of like what Green Bay is doing, especially with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love has a chance to be like I think he's a good football player. I think he's
I
gonna be a
think
good player.
I think it's within the realm of possibilities, but I wish they would have drafted. I wish they would have invested a first round receiver, but they didn't do it for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know why they would have done it for Jordan Love, but
And
but
then Josh
Man, I wish
Downs,
they would have
obviously,
done.
like Josh Downs was at 79. He was a top 40 player on my board.
yeah, I didn't have him quite that high, but
I
I did
love
think he
Josh
was a
Downs,
value
man.
at
I
where he
think
was, though.
I
So
think
what do you
he's
think about
fantastic.
Derrick Henry's replacement being drafted?
Tajay Spears.
I do like Tajay Spears. I
I
think that
like
he'll be
Tajay Spears a lot. I was a big Tajay fan until I found out that he has no cartilage in his knees.
Oh, he'll fit in really fine in Tennessee, man.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so he's basically has the same issue that Drew's boy had, Todd Gurley, coming out of Georgia, where I mean, I think like for the first like 2 or 3 years, Tajay Spears could be like a monster, but getting into that second contract,
That was there.
it's
There's
gonna
one
be
of the there was a former team doctor I follow on Twitter. I can't think of his name, but his evaluation of Spears and like the injuries and things like that was essentially exactly that. Like he'll be a really
yeah,
effective player for his rookie contract, but it's going to be tough for him to get a second contract and have like a prolonged career.
yeah.
Well, they're going to
And so
run into the
yeah,
ground, not this next year, but the season after that, because Derrick
Right.
Henry will be gone from Tennessee for sure.
well,
after this
Tajay
season.
even like what his skill set is, he's not like a 3 down guy. Like I wouldn't put him. I mean, like he's like part of a good rotation, but I don't know if I'd give him like 3 down work. Yaya Diaby, I thought was a good pick, like super athletic dude out of Louisville. Um, what's some other one? Demarion Overshawn, I thought was a good pick for the Cowboys. Dorian Williams to the Bills was awesome. He's an undersized linebacker, but dude is a freak. Like he's so fast. Blew up the Senior Bowl as well. Really great player. Darnell Washington to
I
the
like that pick a
Steelers.
lot.
He's going to take a little bit of time. He's going to come in like immediately, be an impact as a blocker. Like
I was
dude's
gonna say that's what they need though. Like they needed. He basically called himself a sixth offensive lineman. Like that's what I can.
that's
He's
what
like
he
that's what
is.
I can be as a
But
sixth offensive
but
lineman.
if
And
like if you're comfortable with like the injury thing going on with him, which is why he dropped.
right,
I mean, like the dude is like just a freak athlete. Like dudes his
yeah,
size are not supposed to move like that. And if you can
right,
develop his route running and like his hands a little bit, like this dude can be a threat. Like he
yeah.
is gonna
And they
be.
already have a pass catcher for like Pat Fryermuth. He's a
Yeah, like
dog,
him and
man.
Frymouth, that's tough. Trey Tucker going to Las Vegas. I love Trey Tucker. That's my dude. Also have an interview with him on the Blues Table. You can check that out.
What's up, Drake? The Washington Fryermuth connection is nasty and Pitt. Yeah, that's a nasty tight end combo for sure. Absolutely,
Oh, that's
they
my guy
are
right there.
they are
Dra-
two freaking trees indeed.
What's up, Drake? Hope you're doing well, bro. Um, then get in here like Jacorian Bennett, I thought was a really good pick out of Maryland. He's a good DB. Keely Ringo, of course, great pick. They traded up to get him.
Yep.
Blake Freeland, I thought was a value in the 4th round. He could be he's more of a developmental guy, but once again, athletic for that's like the whole Colts draft, man, is like freaks. Like
That's they always like I'm convinced that the Colts have like a
RAS
RAS
score, bro.
they have a RAS score requirement where they have to score above a certain level to be able to be
They have
drafted by
to
the
score above
Colts.
like a 9.6 to be drafted. Like
Yeah, has to.
the same thing with like Adetomiwa at a Boware. So
That's a mouthful.
that's right. Hey, I killed the name too, didn't I?
You did. You flew right through
You
that.
probably said it a few hundred times.
Yeah, I've said it a lot. But he's another guy, man. Like, so he played at Northwestern. He played out of position a lot. So he played all along the offensive line or the D line. He played, edge rusher. They put him in at 1 tech. But whenever he played at 3 tech, whenever they put him in at 3 tech, he wrecked games. I mean, like the dude just absolutely annihilated people at 3 tech. So whenever they drafted him, like Chris Ballard's like, yeah, he's gonna be 3 tech. So he's gonna play behind DeForest Buckner. He's gonna be the backup to Defoe. And I like as soon as I heard him say that, he's like, yeah, he's gonna play at 3 tech. I was like, oh my god, like it's odd, like because like Northwestern, man, like if they would have just played the dude at 3 tech the whole time, like he probably would have went like in like the 2nd round. Just think about this. This dude's 280 plus pounds defensive lineman, ran like a 4.4.
That's wild.
Nuts. Dawan Jones, I thought, he had some injury history as well, but that could be a really good value pick.
There you go. Nasty 4.49.
Crazy, dude. For a dude that size to move. Clark Phillips, I liked out of Utah. I thought he would have went higher than what he did. There's your boy Rashawn Johnson, Drew.
Yeah, we talked about Roshan. I thought that was a good pick at that point in the 4th round.
Yeah, I mean, Stetson Bennett.
Stop right here. This is what annoyed me about this draft class is all these teams taking these weird 4th, 5th round shots on these below average quarterbacks thinking they're going to find the next Brock Purdy. You know why you're not going to find the next Brock Purdy? Because you don't have Kyle Shanahan. Okay, that's why. But yeah, okay. I'm not saying the Rams specifically, because the Rams. Matthew Stafford was the only quarterback on the Rams roster on draft day. Like they literally didn't even have a backup. But like there was these quarterbacks getting drafted just so much earlier than they needed to be because everybody's convinced they can find the next Brock Purdy. But unless you got Kyle Shanahan sitting there and you have the weapons at the disposal that the 49ers do, you're not going to find the offensive line. If you don't have Trent Williams at left tackle, surprise, you're not going to find the next Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy ain't even that damn good. This hype is this Brock Purdy shit's gonna kill me. I'm gonna roll
Brock
over.
Purdy, but Brock Purdy's better than Trey Lance though.
No, he's not.
I mean, come on, man.
He's not as talented, but he might be a better quarterback. There's a difference.
I'm just playing, but at the same time,
look at the Bears too, like Tyler Scott right here.
I like that Tyler Scott pick.
That is a steal.
Yeah, it
Love
was.
That. Such a good pick for the 4th round, man.
Who do you think's the bigger dust ball at this point, Trey Lance or DeAndre Swift?
Both teams seem to hate those players, even though Trey Lance has had
our fantasy heroes that died last season.
Yeah.
I'll say Trey Lance mechanics look a lot better.
I will continue to bitch and moan about this because he didn't. His last year in college was messed up by COVID, so he didn't get to play much in college. And then you traded multiple 1st round picks, multiple future first, along with swapping first to go up and get him. And then you let him set for a year after he had already basically set for an entire year at that point. You let him set behind you.
He needed development. Like he needed to refine.
He needed reps is what he needed.
I mean, I agree. Like he needs reps, but like he needed like mechanical work. Like
and then the next year, he only got to play in 2 games before he got injured. One of those 2 games was an absolute monsoon in Chicago. Like they literally were playing in like the middle of a fucking hurricane, basically. And then he got injured. He only got to play 2 games. Like I'm sorry, I do not believe. I know that it was. I know it wasn't. I know it was it wasn't like D1. It wasn't SEC. It wasn't anything like that. But the dude had like a 30-something to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. Like he didn't forget how to play football. He just hasn't had the chance to show he can. I know, but I literally prefaced what I was saying with that exact statement. But I mean, even if you do that in like there ain't any other quarterback in D2 doing that. Like I mean, it's not like he didn't just all of a sudden stop remembering how to play football. And if you think somebody like Brock Purdy, if you were impressed with what he could do in that system, imagine if you give somebody with the physical tools that Trey Lance has, and if you actually give him the time to develop and to get some actual game reps with more than 2 fucking games. Like
I'll say this though about Brock Purdy. I'll say this.
His 10-minute highlight reel of dropped interceptions is impressive. I agree, man. It's
well, not only that, but I'm just saying, like from a quarterback perspective, like the quarterback he was coming out of this draft compared to where he was last year, it has nothing to do with like San Francisco or anything like that. It was more like I'm talking more along the lines of like the mechanical overhaul and the work ethic he showed. Like,
I mean, he was a really good college quarterback.
I mean, yeah, but like
I was surprised that he was the last pick in the draft.
Yeah, but the mechanical overhaul that he did just in that 1 season of work, like that takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication, and he really transformed himself just based off that one off. Like that one off season of work, like because they really dug into like the.
That is ridiculous.
It's stupid. It's so stupid. Uh, but like they really dug in to like the analytical part of it, where they just like, I mean, you're talking about like rotation, torque, where he was from like his shoulder to hip ratio, like I mean, just like all these little like idiosyncratic things that like he really worked on, and like the passer he was last year in San Francisco was not the passer he was whenever he was drafted. Like he looked completely different. So it would not surprise me at all with like another year of development and another year of learning that system. Because one thing he did do well, even at Iowa, like his ability to process information very quickly, pre and post snap, and to get the ball out on time, in rhythm, accurately. Like, I mean, it was really impressive. Like, I really do think, like, I don't think he is just like a flash in the pan. I think he has the tools.
I think he could be. I think he could be a serviceable quarterback
I
in
think
the
he could be a
NFL.
good
But
quarterback for them.
I
Like
think
now,
I
I don't
think
think
he
he's ever
caps.
gonna.
I
Yeah,
think
I
he
don't think
caps
he's
your
ever
team
gonna.
ceiling, and you know what you're going to get, and you know you're never going to get here with him. You might get here.
I
But
agree. Like like he's a quarterback you can win with, but he's not a
yeah,
quarterback you win because of.
exactly. That's the perfect way that I would put it as well. And I think Trey Lance could get to. And the chances of him doing it at this point are much slimmer now with this his development taking longer
Yeah, just
because of the injury factors and things
unfortunate.
like that. But I thought that Trey Lance was a guy that could get to that win because of level.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely. And like I
I
never
think
have a
that
problem
I
with
think the
teams
chances of
taking
that happening are
shots on
smaller
guys like
now.
that. Yeah,
Can you
I'm never
imagine
gonna have
having
a
a fantasy team last year with Trey Lance as your quarterback and Kyle
yes.
Pitts
I
and
can.
DeAndre Swift? Because all those guys are like super pumped, and it's just like it's to the point where like these guys that are over talented. That's the one thing with the draft that drives me crazy is there's so much talent and they're like genetic freaks in these drafts, and you just never get to see it like the full potential of some of these guys. Like,
Well, that's why you gotta like. That's why like going back, like what we were talking about, like with like Tennessee is like if you're gonna draft players like that, you have to have a plan in place, and you have to stick with that plan. Like you can't change the plan 12 weeks into the season. You have to have a plan in place to say, okay, like this is how we're going to take this guy, and this is going to be how we're
do you
going to
think?
execute it.
Well, I guess kind of the point I'm making. Do you think if
And
Lance
that's
would have
why so many, and like Drew knows this too. That's why we say it on this show all the time. We've said it a million times. That's why situations matter.
Situations and
sure?
coaching matters.
Situations matter.
Do you
Yeah.
think if Lance wouldn't have got hurt last season, they would not have went to Garoppolo at any point during the regular season?
I don't think so. I think
You
Trey
think they
Lance
would
would
have
have
rolled
kept
out the
that.
I
I
mean,
think
entire?
like
Trey Lance would
I
have kept
can't
that
say,
job the entire year.
yeah, I can't say no just because, like, I mean, if Trey Lance, I mean, if they're sitting there and they're like 4-7, then like maybe like, and like Trey Lance is absolutely stinking it up, then
Yeah.
yeah,
If
probably.
that plays out, they would have went back to him.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't say no, but I mean, they're a really good team. Like they have a really good team around him,
Hmm.
and I mean,
They're ready
Yeah,
to win right now. They just got to
yeah,
figure
I
the
mean,
quarterbacks out.
eventually,
I
like
know.
you're
I know
gonna have to see what you
they
have.
echoed the sentiments, basically saying that if they would have had a quarterback last year when Purdy got hurt in the NFC Championship game, they would have won. And I believe that too. I think they would have won that game. I do.
They
Like,
weren't beating Philadelphia, but that was, and it makes me so. I'm so annoyed that it had played out the way it was because that was going to be the Brock Purdy exposure game, and it was on its way of happening before he got hurt. Like he was not playing well
I
before he
mean, I
got
don't
hurt.
know, like exposure.
I
I mean,
think
like
I don't know if they would have necessarily
what was
won.
that?
I
Like his
rephrase
was like
that.
how many games was that? Was that like his 7th game of the season? Like I don't know if you're gonna like be exposed your 7th game. I mean, like you're a
Did you
rookie.
did you see how he was being propped up in those 7 games that he did play with
Bro,
everybody acting like that the 49ers were winning those games just because Brock Purdy was their savior and shit?
I
bro,
mean, he kind of
you know
was.
me
It
way
seemed like
better than to know that
I'm
I
not
listen
saying
to
that
what
I'm
the
not saying
media
that
says.
I'm not saying that you were saying it or that's what you
No,
thought. I'm
I'm
just
saying
saying
like you. I'm saying you know me better to know that like I
but
pay attention to
that's
what the media
whenever I say get exposed, that's what I'm talking about is all those people that are thinking like oh wow, Brock Purdy's the next Tom Brady, the next that type of
No.
crazy
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous.
that type of crazy shit was going on out there, and
No,
and it's
he
just
saved
and
their
we
season,
were
though.
all just conveniently ignoring all of the red flags that he was putting out there with some of the poor, just awful throws he was making. And I've never seen a quarterback be more lucky in like a 7-8 game stretch with dropped interceptions in my life. Like he started
Well,
half a season and he's got like a 10-minute long
you have
highlight reel of interceptions that were hitting corners like this right in the hands, and they were just
you should
dropping
watch
it.
some Kansas City games sometime.
Well, I know we talked about that with Mahomes. That what was it, like 2 years ago, I think, where Mahomes had this crazy luck with just like DBs were just completely dropping interceptions. The same exact thing was happening with Brock Purdy last year, and everybody was
But he also
boosting
wasn't
up his
throwing 50 touchdowns, I guess.
everybody was boosting up his touchdown to interception ratio, because even though the touchdown numbers weren't extremely high, he also wasn't turning the ball over very much, and people were trying to boost that up, like, look, he's not turning the ball over. I'm like, but yeah, if you watch the fucking games, he's begging the defense for him to turn the ball over, and it just wasn't happening.
What was his like turnover worthy plays? I'm curious now.
I'm not sure. Lance has to be the biggest unknown at quarterback. Haven't seen him play, but Landon said it. If he succeeds with Shanahan, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only way.
That is part of why I was so high on Trey Lance once he got drafted, was because he landed in San Francisco with Shanahan and with that, with the offensive line, with the strong run game, with the weapons around him. Like, I just think if you give him the time to develop, if you get him the game reps, and then you put somebody with those physical tools in a situation with a play caller as strong as Shanahan, with a strong run game you can lean on, and those weapons, I think he could thrive. And I think that was the reason why Brock Purdy was thriving as well. It's the same argument I had with Jimmy G. Everybody was talking about how great of a quarterback Jimmy G was. He's being propped up by this system, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, every quarterback would be getting propped up by that system if they're playing in it. Even the good quarterbacks.
Not Josh Johnson. Didn't he play? Wasn't Josh Johnson?
Yeah.
He was not good. That's the one thing I will say is Brock Purdy did save their season in some ways. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread or anything like that, but
no. But
if they would have rolled out Josh Johnson over, Josh Johnson wouldn't have got him to as far as they made it.
No, he was definitely an upgrade over anything else that they had available to them at that time, for sure.
Yeah, so he had in 7 games he had 4 interceptions and he had 7 turnover worthy plays. So I mean, really,
is that PFF?
Yeah,
that's
including like dropped interceptions.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I need to renew my.
They might be. I think they might be leaving. I think they might be leaving
like
a few off their charting.
Like advanced stuff like that. I mean, they're pretty good.
No, I agree. I like
not the grading, not the grading part.
I like using PFF's research as far as their the analytics side of it goes, but. I know without a doubt I saw more than 7 turnover worthy plays. But getting back to wrap this up real quick, we can fit. What is it? This is the 4th round, right? Or is this the 5th round that we're on now? So Izzy Abanikanda, I loved that pick for the Jets. I didn't like it as much for him because I was hoping he'd land somewhere where he wasn't playing behind a running back like Breece Hall. But I did like the Izzy Abanikanda pick. That dude's a freak athlete. You want to talk about athletes? That dude's an athlete at the running back position. So I like that quite a bit. Now the defense, once we get this deep into the draft, I'm not very familiar with most of the defensive guys.
I like Dontavian Wicks as well. Will Mallory.
Yeah, he's all right.
I was not a huge fan of Will Mallory. Jaron Hall. I mean, that's basically who's that quarterback they took a couple years ago.
I know exactly who you're talking about. It was from Texas A&M.
Yeah, like carbon copy.
It really is. I think it's just like a little bit smaller.
Yeah, Payne Durham. I like that pick.
There was a lot of good backup running backs taken here. Like
Evan.
I love Puka Nacua too. I was a big fan of his pre-draft, so I was happy to see him land. But there was a lot of good back, like the Jets, the Giants, the Colts, the Browns, or the Jets, Giants, Colts, and Bengals all got solid backup running backs in that round.
How do you guys feel about Breece Hall for fantasy this year?
I love him.
Yeah, me too.
Love him.
Yeah, I like Breece Hall.
Upgraded quarterback. I think that's going to be a big factor.
You're going to get the injury discount. People are going to be worried about him going back from the injury, but he'll be solid. So
yeah, I'm all in.
I like that.
All
All right, Landon, we're at the 1.5 hour mark. We got to go through 5 of the 7 rounds. Take us home, man.
All right, man. Well, if you guys enjoyed this content, I would say, I would appreciate if you guys liked and subscribed. I don't know when we'll do this again. Hopefully more now regularly.
We've been on like a once a month schedule for the last like 3 months. So maybe we can get it to like once every 2 weeks or once a week or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got plenty to talk about, man. Like we got the NBA draft coming up. Spurs getting Wembanyama. How about that? Wemby going to the Spurs.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's dope. And then of course there's the NBA finals. We won't talk about baseball for Drew's sake.
I was gonna say we could talk about some baseball this year. I'm all in on that.
We sure can't. Sorry. As far as I'm concerned, baseball season is not happening.
Hey, didn't Jacob DeGrom just get put on he just had Tommy John surgery.
He hadn't played all year. We scored 12 runs a game, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, it really is surprising how good they've been this year, even without DeGrom. What's he made like 4 starts this year?
Yeah, he barely played at all.
Yeah, and they've been great. Like even their pitching staff. It's weird to say, yeah, their pitching staff's been good, and DeGrom hasn't even pitched, but their pitching staff really's been solid too. I've been really impressed with Texas this year.
Every day I wake up, I have somebody else on my fantasy team on IL, so that's kind of how it's been going.
It's been a brutal year for injuries.
Yeah, so it's tough, but yeah, if you guys like this type of stuff, you just like sitting around bullshitting with us. Go ahead and like it. Yeah, I mean we still got plenty of stuff to talk about. So hopefully we'll be able to get you a little more regularly. Our schedules have just been wild. So we do apologize for that. But we are still here. Don't forget about us. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in with us for an hour and a half. If there are any people tuning in with us, I know Drake, my guy. Shout out to you.
Yeah, appreciate you, Drake.
But thank you guys so much. And we'll be back here hopefully shortly with another episode.